Our country's being taken over by communists and communism. I know that sounds crazy, but if you watch this video, I'm going to show you why. Two of the biggest groups influencing global politics, COVID policy, and now American policy is the World Economic Forum and the United Nations. If you read Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto, he writes, "In this sense, the theory of the communists may be summed up in the single sentence, abolition of private property." This was their most important cornerstone, abolishing private property. In 2016, the World Economic Forum penned a piece, "Welcome to 2030, I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better." Welcome to the year 2030. Welcome to my city, or should I say our city. I don't own anything. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own any appliances or any clothes. It might seem odd to you, but it makes perfect sense for us in this city. Everything you considered a product has now become a service. We have access to transportation, accommodation, food, and all the things we need in our daily lives. One by one, all these things became free, so it ended up not making sense for us to own much. First, communication became digitalized and free to everyone. Then when clean energy became free, things started to move quickly. Transportation dropped dramatically in price. It made no sense for us to own cars anymore because we could call a driverless vehicle. Do you get it? In 2016, they had the plan for what they're rolling out and implementing now, or trying to, which is no private property, you own nothing. Everything will be owned by the state, the government, and your technology overlords. Once again, this is not a unique idea. It's straight out of the Communist Manifesto, abolition of private property. And the founder of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, has penned this book this year, COVID-19, The Great Reset, where he explains how he thinks because of COVID, he should implement all of these communist ideas disguised as liberalism and high-tech society, and how it has to happen because of COVID. I'm reading the book now. Interestingly enough, when all the experts and liberal scientists were telling us we had nothing to worry about with COVID-19, go to Chinatown. Enjoy your life. It's fine. George Soros was speaking at Davos, warning Trump of potential economic doom before the election. The stock market, already celebrating Trump's military success, is breaking out to reach new heights, but an overheated economy can't keep boiling for too long. George Soros has a track record of reportedly almost breaking the British pound, somehow manipulating Thailand's currency, getting involved all over the place, and if you notice it, the media will call you an anti-Semite. But isn't that interesting that he warned of potential economic doom at Davos? What is Davos? Well, of course, it's a summit by the World Economic Forum. Also out of the Communist Manifesto, abolition of the family, an infamous proposal of communists, and they try to make the statement, only the wealthy has a family. I guess if you're poor or middle class or working class, a family doesn't benefit you, so let's just abolish it, right? And as our society becomes a prison slave world, NBC's penning opinion pieces saying COVID means Thanksgiving and Christmas will be a bummer. Don't make it worse by urging joy. Wait, what? I know they're trying to abolish your family and not allow you to see them over Thanksgiving and Christmas, but couldn't they at least do a better job of pretending like they had your best interest at heart? Even in the worst times, I think you should enjoy yourself and try to make the most of it no matter what's going on, but they're telling you that it's going to be a bummer and don't make it worse by urging joy. These people are literally communist demons. They'll eventually go straight to hell where they belong. I'll pray for them, but they are such evil, disgusting devils trying to tell people that joy is a bad idea. I'm not going to curse for the sake of this video, but to the people who wrote this, just know I want to. Communism also abolishes eternal truths. It abolishes all religion and all morality. Why would you want to abolish eternal truths and abolish morality? If this is such a great moral movement, why wouldn't you want morality? Because they're wicked, evil deceivers who mean nothing that they say. And the fact that churches are getting closed and burned and destroyed and attacked, while strip clubs are open and casinos are open and politicians can do exactly what they tell you not to do, do you think this is random? Do you think this is just coincidental? Do you see what I'm showing you? I'll get into the United Nations, but the World Economic Forum for years have been plotting out communism under the guise of a utopian technological state that the state and corporations control, where you don't have privacy or private property. Do you think this is random? Because it's not. And I don't care how much I get censored, how much media lies, or how much these devils try to kill joy, kill people, kill society, and kill America. And the COVID shutdown is killing people. Reports in The Guardian, around 400,000 people have died in excess of tuberculosis because they don't have the resources because they're running in circles over COVID-19. So just know when they play God, people die. And if you study communism and you study the Bolshevik Revolution and you study who these people really look up to, it's not a surprise that people die. Personally, I don't believe that they don't want it to happen. I think it's all part of their plan, but we'll see. Now let's get to the loose guidelines written in the Communist Manifesto. And you can see how Democrats, liberals, socialists, Marxists, Marxists, the World Economic Forum, UN, and the technology companies are implementing nearly every single one of these and using COVID-19 as the biggest excuse of all to implement communism. Abolition of property and land and application of all rents to land to public purposes. So I showed you how World Economic Forum is literally advocating for the abolition of property. No privacy, no private property. And when they say abolish rent and use the COVID-19 crisis to screw over landlords and people who own property, it's not random, it's not coincidental, it's not, we'll just figure this out for now because of COVID-19. They're doing exactly what the Communist Manifesto says. They're writing about it in utopian op-eds. They want to do this. This is not random, it's not a mistake, but they've done it so incrementally and so sneakily, using the media and big tech to censor anybody who notices, that America is just slowly going to get strangled to death by communism. And one day people are going to realize what I'm saying is true. And if people don't realize soon enough, it's going to be too late because they'll already have destroyed everything that once made America great, free, and prosperous. The second rule, a heavy progressive or graduated income tax, which has already been had in America for a long time. And even progressive groups are bragging. The Biden tax plan, the more progressives look, the more progressives like. So to the Bernie supporters who wonder, why is Bernie Sanders endorsing Joe Biden? I don't understand. He's not progressive enough. He's doing some of your policies. He's only going to gradually get worse because it's not a threat to the establishment. It's not a threat to the big bankers. It's not a threat to the corporations, and it's certainly not a threat to the government. So there's a reason that they get along, because they're implementing the Communist Manifesto. And as I'll prove in this video, the Communist Manifesto is not a working class revolution. It's a scheme by the elites to dupe the working class into giving the government and the elites all of their power, freedom, and privacy. Number 3, abolition of all right of inheritance. Even PolitiFact is bragging. Joe Biden wants to get rid of something called stepped up basis that reduces inheritance taxes. So he's already doing it, and eventually they'll go full Bernie Sanders and try to take away it all. So you can't escape their communism with generational wealth. Number 4, confiscation of the property of all immigrants and rebels. If you read the 2030 plan on the World Economic Forum, of course, if there is no privacy and no private property and you own nothing, they're going to have to take it eventually. So everybody's not going to give it up. They get to the point they're trying to get to, they're going to have to take it from you, which is why the media has started to attack and demonize militias, and obviously the Second Amendment and the First Amendment, because they understand what would stand in the way of them and trying to take all of your private property. Number 5, centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. So Karl Marx was such a nice guy that he wanted a total monopoly over banking. Yeah, I'm sure that's for the working class people, guys. I mean, how have people not figured this out yet? It's a total scam. And in the early 1900s in America, we switched over to a central bank. So this has already happened. You've been on a slow walk to communism since the 1900s. Vladimir Lenin, one of the most famous and important communists, said the establishment of a central bank is 90% of communizing a nation. So we've pretty much been screwed since then. Because if you own the money and you own the creation and the distribution of money, it's not hard to get the rest of the stuff, aka everything. They want everything. Number 6, centralization of the means of communication and transport into the hands of the state. So if you notice, Facebook, Google, Twitter, all of the mainstream media, even Fox News now, have you noticed something? They're all working together. They're all on the same page. They're all censoring. They're all pushing false narratives. They almost have total control of communication. They're so close and they want it all, which is why all these BS fact checkers and warnings are coming up, because in a communist society, there is no dissent. There are no alternative opinions. They crush truth, like they've said. They crush morality, like they said, and they blast their false narrative, and anybody who disagrees gets punished. So they want total control of communication, they're almost there, and total control of transportation into the hands of state. So when you see woke Gavin Newsom saying, I'm banning the sales of new gasoline cars by 2035, oh wow, he's so progressive, oh my goodness, he really cares about the environment. Just remember that World Economic Forum article from a few years ago, where they explained how in their world of no privacy, no private property, where you own nothing, they're gonna own total control of transport. This is not a new concept. This is straight out of the Communist Manifesto. Number 8, equal obligation of all work. Number 10, free education for all children in public schools. Isn't that nice? Free indoctrination, state-sanctioned indoctrination for free. Because the price of you being so brainwashed by the government is something that money can't buy. That's why Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are so into free tuition at public institutions. They want it all to be free. It sounds good, but once you realize what they're doing, everything's free because they control everything. It's a slave world. They think it'll look like a utopia. media? I don't think so. And as all this is going on, as they're crushing America, you have mask mandates, you have lockdowns, you have quarantines. I mean, we're literally being treated like a 1984 sci-fi thriller horror movie where humanity gets enslaved. The United Nations is cozying up to China because they're just so good with human rights. China was newly elected to the UN Human Rights Council, just reviewed our record on human rights. China wishes to recommend to the US root out systemic racism, address widespread police brutality, and combat discrimination against African and Asian Americans. Is China really diverse to be lecturing us? Well, of course they're not. Look at their demographics. It's mostly Chinese people, and the Muslim minority that they have are said to be being thrown into concentration camps. But you won't hear that on most media because communists, and now China working with the communists, who are also communists, are working hand in hand with democratic media. And this plot for the communists to use the American diversity and racial tension to exploit us and take away our freedom and rights has been written about for over 100 years. That's why G. Edward Griffin knew it 50 years ago. Take a look.
As early as 1928, the communists declared that the racial differences among our people constituted the weakest and most vulnerable point in our social fabric. By constantly probing and straining at this one spot, they calculated that eventually the cloth could be torn apart and that Americans could be divided, weakened, and perhaps even set against each other in open combat. We mustn't kid ourselves into thinking that the communists have placed their agitators only into the black communities. They're working both sides of the street. They want hatred, violence, and bloodshed between the races, and they don't care how they get it or whom they use, even children if necessary.
But don't worry, the UN is saying happening now, we're tweeting as the US record on human rights is now being reviewed by the UN's Human Rights Council by Cuba, Belarus, North Korea, Syria, Iran, China, and other champions of human rights. They've put a dog muzzle on you. You look like an animal with your little face diaper, slave muzzle. They're strangling your country. They're strangling your economics. They're strangling your joy while they tell you not to be joyful. They're strangling social interactions. They're completely destroying this country on every level of economics, freedom, prosperity, and human interaction as they publicly mock you and use some of the worst human rights offenders like Iran, China, Cuba, and North Korea publicly mocking you at the UN, telling you how to treat humans. Do you get it yet? We're being conquered by communists. We're being taken over by communism, and the GOP has done virtually nothing to counter it, but I will. Senator Rand Paul recently posted an article with statistics and said, so Joe Biden wants to lock us down and force everyone to mask up. Doesn't anyone care to know if mask mandates help? The data on mask mandates actually shows an increased rate of COVID cases after the mandates. But that's an opinion you're not even allowed to have in communist America, so I wouldn't doubt that that'll get taken down or my video might get censored for even showing you that perspective. This is communism, folks. This is not the free America you're used to. But of course I have data to back up what he's saying. This is a list of the worst countries in deaths per capita, which means most people dying per population scaled to size. Number 2 is Belgium. They had a lockdown and they recently had more COVID rules. Number 3 is Peru. They had the world's strictest lockdown and they're doing 3rd worst. Number 8 is now Argentina, who had the world's longest lockdown. Since they had the world's longest lockdown, have they improved? No, they've just steadily gotten worse and now they're on the top 10 worst list in deaths per capita. Most of the top 10 had lockdowns, but guess who didn't? Sweden at number 18. They keep moving down without a lockdown and without a mask mandate. But if you listen to the media or either party, you would think if you don't do a mask mandate and a lockdown, 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, 100 times as many people would die. That's what they told us all year. It's not true. It never was true. It's never going to be true. All they do is censor, silence, and destroy anybody who points that out because this is communism and they're killing the United States of America. There is no data that says not doing a mask mandate and not doing a lockdown will make it 10, 20, 30, 50 times worse. There's no data on the planet. There's only data that shows the world's longest lockdown and the world's strongest lockdown is doing far worse than no lockdown. So let's look at Joe Biden's plans. He says, Ron Klain's deep, varied experience, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read it. It's his new chief of staff, or he thinks it is. He hasn't even won the election yet, and there's a high chance that he's not going to win in courts, but White House Chief of Staff Ronald Klain. Is this the same Ronald Klain who responded to Vox, 68% of Americans think elections are rigged, where he said, that's because they are? So the media and the Democrats want you to believe that there's no possible way that elections could be rigged, even though they they of course know that's not true, and their choice for White House Chief of Staff said they were rigged just 6 years ago. These are the sick little games that they play, and stupid little brainwashed sheep just keep falling for it, to their own demise, sheep being led to the slaughter. At least now you're not just called sheep, at least now you have a little animal slave muzzle on your face to match what you are inside. It's cute, right? He also said at the end of February on COVID-19, if you want to do something useful today, go to Chinatown, buy a meal, go shopping. The virus attacks humans, not people of any ethnicity, race. Fear is hurting Chinese American-owned businesses baselessly. Let's fight the disease and let's fight prejudice. Similar to Bill de Blasio in early March, he said, since I'm encouraging New Yorkers to go on with your lives and get out of town despite coronavirus, I thought I'd offer some suggestions. So these are the same people that said Trump didn't act early enough, but when Trump was closing down travel in early February, they were saying he was a racist xenophobe for doing so, and they actually told people to go into the streets, and now they say not to go into the streets. Do you get it? Nothing they say makes sense. They're purposely abolishing eternal truths and morality from society, and they could not be bigger hypocrites. Perhaps the biggest hypocrite of all is who I've dubbed Bolshevik Beetlejuice, aka Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who said effective Monday, I'm issuing a stay-at-home advisory asking all Chicagoans to only leave their homes for essential needs, including work and school. This includes canceled traditional Thanksgiving celebrations, but literally just a few days ago, she was out in the street without a mask in a huge crowd, not social distancing, celebrating what she perceived as a Joe Biden victory. Take a look.
Day for our city. This is a great day for our country. We get to take our democracy back. And I just want to say, for all those people who voted, you made this happen.
They don't believe in anything that they tell you. They believe that they're kings and queens, that you're slaves, and that if you dare try to act like they act, you're a horrible person. They don't care. Nothing they say makes sense. There is no science and data to back up their Orwellian slave orders, but there actually is. The science of how exactly what they're doing is the Communist Manifesto, the Communist Agenda, and groups like the UN, groups like World Economic Forum, global financiers like He Who Must Not Be Named, or else you'll get called an anti-Semite and potentially sent some sort of order telling you to stop, and the Democratic Party and the media and big tech, they're all in on it. They're all pushing communism. They're all destroying America. They're all propping up communist China. And if America doesn't wake up soon, you're going to lose everything. Freedom, private property, privacy, anything that you own. It won't be yours anymore. This is their plan. It's not my opinion. It's not a theory. It's written. They wrote it. They overreacted to COVID-19, not by mistake, purposely, because they have a plan. And they've had this plan for years. And this year they're implementing the plan, and every single thing that they want to get done is getting done. Communist China's rising, America is falling, and that's all part of their plan. Abolish religion, abolish the free country, abolish private property, take control of all communication, take control of all transportation. You have nothing. You are now a slave to the state, to the technocracy, and to the alliance they form with the few corporations who will control everything, as your mom and pop shop, your small business, your hair salon, your car company doesn't exist anymore. That's what they want. That's what they're doing. If Trump can't figure it out, or these other Republicans can't figure it out, or honest Democrats and progressives can't figure it out, I don't know what to tell you. You'll figure it out in the future when you're a slave who owns nothing, who gets treated like they did in the Bolshevik Revolution, or anytime this type of rule came to be. But the difference is, if it comes this time with the technology and the strangle over the country that they have, it probably won't go away. So please wake up, folks. Enjoy your freedom. Have joy, have faith, not only pray, but enjoy what you have now and exercise your freedom and exercise the little freedom of speech that you have now, because if you don't appreciate what you do have, that's what they're banking on. We're gonna lose everything. Thanks so much for watching. God bless you and have a good day. I'll be back soon.
Teach it to you. They would rather keep you in the system, pay $100K for college just to end up in a prison. They should sign your board to Rockefeller. Ooh, I can preach and beat a acapella. Ooh, reaching death and down like Helen Keller. Tell them look at who it was to send out Luther King a letter. We about to hit him with the red wave. Yeah, I ain't trying to be another tech slave.